Good morning, everybody. Ber from Meliora Wellbeing here. For those of you who are new, I'm a nurse and my specialty is teaching people about functional breathing and health literacy. What does that mean? That means I want you to understand your body and how you feel and how all that relates to your health. I'm passionate about this, and what drives me is seeing people getting their aha moments and be able to make lasting and impactful change in their life. Today, I have a special guest, somebody I've known for years, somebody who I look up to, who is an expert and a specialist in their area. So I'd like to welcome Rosanna Taylor to our platform. So Rosanna, how are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me here this morning.
Awesome. So tell me in two words, how you're feeling today.
2 words would be excited and hopeful. I am really excited to pair our work together and talk about what it is we do, because I think both of us have such an important message to share.
Yes. So exactly what kind of work do you do?
I am a kinesiologist. And if that's something you haven't heard of before, kinesiologists are specialists in human movement. So I've been a kinesiologist for almost 20 years. I started out working as, a personal trainer, working in health promotion. And about almost a decade ago, I stumbled across the work of Katy Bowman. She is a biomechanist and she teaches functional movement. And I did her certification course and I started my own business called Real Life Movement. And I work with people of all ages on their alignment, their movement habits, patterns that may be contributing to their pain and dysfunction.
So your niche, what niche would you say that you work in?
I kind of have 2 separate ones. So my first niche would be prenatal and postpartum. So I work with people who are getting ready to labor and deliver their babies to help prepare their bodies for that big momentous event. And I also work with them postpartum to help their bodies recover from the pregnancy. And then my second niche would be the aging population. I work with people on maintaining their mobility and their function in their everyday lives. They come to me with a certain issue and we end up either finding more or relieving more they didn't know that they had. I also do a lot of work with the feet, plantar fasciitis, bunions, foot pain, that kind of thing. So
Yeah, that's interesting how you use the term aging population, because really that is everybody. Everybody is a day older every day.
we are all aging.
Yeah, we're all aging. So with all of us are aging, what do you see that people need? Like, are there recurring patterns?
Absolutely. I think that most people are so unconscious of their movement habits. They don't know how they spend their whole day moving. All day long, you have different forces working on your body, whether you are sitting in a chair, driving a car, sitting on a couch, working at your desk. There are forces working on your body to either make the position you are in good for your body or a little bit hard on your body. So what I see is people coming to me who have either spent a long time of their lives in positive heeled shoes with short, tight calves and a affected pelvic floor, or they have spent a significant portion of their life working at a desk and they have hip pain, back pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, and just working on their alignment and working on moving more parts of their body more really helps to reduce or eliminate a lot of those symptoms.
So when I relate this to what's out there already, I think of kinesiologists with the fitness industry. Would you put yourself in the fitness industry or kind of on the fringe?
I absolutely would say the fringe. Functional movement is not a big industry. I've been doing this specific work, like I said, for almost a decade. And although it's growing in popularity, it's still definitely outside the mainstream. A lot of people are starting to learn a little bit more about it. Like I said, my mentor and teacher, Katy Bowman, has done a lot for this niche industry with all of the books that she's written and her podcast and all of her media appearances. But it's still something that most people don't know about.
Yeah. And why do you think it's important for people?
I think it's important because it gives you control over or empowers you to take control of your own health. And most people don't realize how much control they have over how they feel in their bodies. They outsource their health to the medical professionals. And without taking that personal responsibility and saying, this is what I'm doing with my body all day long, and this is how I can improve that with small changes that fit into my real life, then it's more of a, I can't do anything about it, rather than I can really do something to make this better for myself.
Yeah, so that reminds me of the article released last year by the Mackenzie Health Institute, where they outlined 23 health drivers, and 19 of those 23 health drivers lie within a person, and only 4 are within the healthcare system. So I have a feeling that a lot of the work that you do and how you coach and advise and teach people actually works in some of those 19 health drivers, and where somebody can be accountable for themselves.
Absolutely. I think that we live in an age where there is so much information and people feel bombarded by constant do this to feel better, or the quick fixes of 5 minutes a day and you'll have rock hard abs, or whatever the other toxic media messages are that we are bombarded with every day. And I think what I do is help people wade through all of that in the kinesiology fitness space and say, this is what's going to work for you in your life and in your body, because it's not one size fits all.
Yeah. So you're really breaking down the, like you said, the toxic industry and the rhetoric that's out there, and break down to something specific, manageable, and impactful for a person.
Absolutely. And I think I will add on this is that I will never teach weight loss. That is not my end goal on any of this. My end goal is function and pain reduction and just feeling better in your body.
Why is that important to people?
I think that the weight loss or the feeling better.
Well, let's go with the feeling better. I think
Okay.
the weight loss thing is a whole other topic, and we'll just put that aside for another day.
Absolutely. Feeling better. I mean, isn't that what everybody wants at the end of the day when they seek out help from any kind of professional? They want to feel better. And regardless of who you are going to feel better in one of those many areas that you have control over in your own body, that they want to seek out somebody who is going to give them tools that they can use.
Yeah. So often, most of us who have our specialty, have our niche, have our area, something brings us to that area. So what brought you to specialize in kinesiology / biomechanism?
So kinesiology in general, I was in my 3rd year of my kinesiology program, and I had the opportunity to work for an Alberta health initiative called Healthy You. And we got to travel around to all of the different festivals, Calgary Stampede, Red Deer Medicine Hat. And we had our booth set up right next to the mini donut stand, where we would hand out food guides and prizes and skipping ropes and stuff like that. And although it was very idealistic, it was also my first experience with any kind of population health promotion initiative. And it really got me interested in the preventative aspect of kinesiology, rather than the fitness training, athletic training, or weight loss industry. So that was kind of the kinesiology part. And what got me into the specific functional movement niche is that after I had my 2nd child, I was experiencing many pelvic floor dysfunction symptoms. So I was doing a class taught by a physiotherapist to help improve my pelvic floor, my core. And she was taking this course by Katy Bowman. And I just dove headfirst into the certification. Once I learned about it, within a week, I bought all the books and signed up, and it just made so much sense to me. Everything that I read was an aha moment. And it has really been fabulous for personal learning, but also to help clients understand why how they're moving their bodies affects how they feel so much.
Awesome. So I can see the drive, and I've known you for years, and I can fill in the blanks in my head of so much of what you're saying. So what I want to specifically pull out of that is the pelvic floor. So in my practice, I notice certain patterns. I'm assuming in your practice, you've noticed certain patterns, and that's probably why you have drawn to the feet and working with postpartum people as well as aging population. So specifically pelvic floor. Is that something that you have noticed that there's patterns in our community and our culture?
Absolutely. So most people, when they think of the pelvic floor, they think, oh, I got to do my Kegels. And I won't go into the whole debate about Kegels right now, but I will say that the majority of people that I work with have a very tight pelvic floor. They grip on their pelvic floor. It's very much tied to what you've experienced in your life, any trauma that you have experienced, and then adding a pregnancy on top of an already tight pelvic floor can cause symptoms and dysfunction. And the connection to the feet and how having fully mobile and functional feet can help your pelvic floor be fully functional and mobile is really fascinating to me. And I just think that most people need to learn how to relax their pelvic floor, not contract it more. And that's the most dominant pattern that I see.
So let's break that down a little bit more, and let's start with the trauma part. So there's a difference between big T trauma and small T trauma. So we're specifically referring and amplifying the small T traumas, that even though somebody can't indicate that they've had trauma, people still carry stress in their bodies. One way people can carry stress in their bodies affects their fascia and affects how they are aligned and how the muscle tone of their body is, specifically the pelvic floor. So is this kind of what you're meaning on how people can carry stress in their body and how they hold their body and how that affects pelvic floor?
Absolutely. So it's those everyday stresses can be carried in different spots in your body. And then also any kind of injury, whether it's a sports injury when you were younger, a birth injury when you are delivering your baby, any of those things can cause a slight change in your alignment, a slight change in how you hold your pelvis all day long. And then you put your everyday regular life on top of that, and it causes wear and tear on those tissues and those joints, where just shifting that alignment and learning how to fully contract and fully relax those muscles can make such a big difference in any symptoms or pain.
So essentially, it's the same pathology, the same patterns, just in a different spot for people who say they have back or neck pain.
Absolutely. I mean, there is the specific added birth trauma piece, where depending on your birth experience when delivering a baby, you could have had tearing, you could have had baby sitting in a certain position the whole pregnancy on one side of your pelvis, that kind of thing.
So going back to how you got into your specific area and niche, and how your experience after giving birth to your second child, tell me about the emotion of that, of finding or recognizing that there is a pain, discomfort, whatever there was, and that there was a solution. How was that emotionally? How was that experience for you?
It was profound to, one, find out that there was something I could do personally every day that would make this better and make it go away. If we get specific on the symptoms here, I had diastasis recti, so that's a separation of your abdominal muscles that does not return after pregnancy. I was having stress incontinence, so when you're jumping or running, where you would have some leaking of urine, and I was having pelvic pain. And within just not even 2 full months of doing this class, I had the SI joint pain that I'd been experiencing since my first pregnancy. My first 2 or 2.5 years apart. So it had been a long time experiencing this constant SI joint pain, just completely melted away. It was gone. And emotionally, that was huge, to really empower me that, hey, this is something I can do at home by myself without having to go and search for more answers, without having to go to more appointments, find more specialists, find somebody else that I connect with that can help me. It was something that I could do in the comfort and privacy of my own home. And I thought that that was another big aha moment for me, that if I can provide this for my clients, it's not about getting them to do something correctly, or it's not about doing the right thing. It's about making it work for them in their body and in their life.
So let me break this down a little bit further because I know you. So you have a master's degree in kinesiology, correct?
Correct.
So most people in general population would think if you have a master's degree in kinesiology that you would already know how to help yourself.
Well, knowing that I graduated with the undergraduate degree in kinesiology in 2005, so it's been a long time, the master's degree in 2008. So I don't know what is in the curriculum these days. I have not looked what they are currently studying, but when I took it, the science of human movement was more the science of fitness, and how exercise, specific directed movement for the purpose of increasing health benefits, was all that was taught. We looked at exercise psychology, we looked at all different aspects of how exercise fits in your life, but never once in my entire both degrees did we talk about how just moving all day long or sitting all day long was such a detriment to your health.
So you really break down how people live their life on a daily basis in their daily habits and work with that and how to implement change there versus taking isolated time out of your day and doing a routine that's one size fits all. You stay away from that and go
I
to
definitely will give sets of exercises to do in specific exercise time, but knowing that that small half an hour, 60-minute window is going to have a smaller effect on your overall feeling of well-being than the other 23 hours a day, what your body is experiencing in terms of load and forces.
and going a little bit deeper, how you had several things going on with you, with your diastasis recti, pelvic floor pain, and stress incontinence, and SI pain. So often when you think of the fitness industry and even some physiotherapists, there's this message out there that you need to have surgery or Botox or something to fix these problems. Are you saying that you tackled it from a different perspective?
Absolutely. I think that those messages are mixed up in that same rhetoric of those toxic media messages where there's just a quick fix, or this will make it better, this one-time thing, where I'm very open and honest with my clients that this is not a quick fix. This is something that may take a month, 2 months, a year. When I first started this work, my feet were very immobile. I was a competitive figure skater growing up, so my feet were squished into my very tight leather boots that had an elevated heel for a lot of my developmental years. And excuse me, it took a good 2 years of constant foot mobilization exercises and transitioning to minimal shoes to get my feet back to a baseline functional state. And I like to be open and honest with my clients about that, because this is not a quick fix, but this is a long-term gain mentality where the small changes that you make every day is going to make such a difference as you age every single day.
Yeah. And you're just reminding me right next and behind my camera here, I have a little poster saying, practice does not equal perfection. Practice equals permanence. So practice can be conscious or unconscious. For example, how you've referred to a few times, sitting, how often and how much and how and what ways you sit, that becomes your permanence in your body. So you're talking about doing more conscious, purposeful changes in your day.
Absolutely. Think about when you are sitting in your favorite chair in your house. You probably sit down in the exact same body alignment without even thinking about it every time. You might shift to one side and just sit back. Your pelvis is tucked under. It's in a nice comfy couch, whatever it is. And you may sit there for an hour, 2, 3, without moving your body at all. And I quite often get asked the question, well, if sitting's bad, what's the best position to be in? And I always tell people the next one. So your body, if you are sitting on the floor, for example, will, if you're not used to sitting on the floor, often give you signals to say, hey, I don't quite like this anymore, change positions. So instead of thinking of it as, oh, I'm in pain, I don't want to sit on the floor, that hurts, think of it as, oh, my body's telling me to move and to shift into another position, because there are limitless options for how you can position your body throughout the day. It's becoming aware of how you're holding your body and making sure that you're not doing the same thing all day long.
Yeah, I'm reading a lot about change theory right now and how to implement change. And the number one thing for change to occur is awareness. So I think people who you work with is bringing awareness to their lives, to their patterns, and then giving them different options. I want to back up on something else that we did address, or I brought up, of like surgery and other ways to deal with problems that people are facing may have its place. I'm not saying that that's never an option for people, and people who choose that, they're wrong. Everybody needs to make their own choices. Part of this, like I said, awareness. Once your awareness of problems, awareness of different solutions gives you more options. So we're just expanding the conversation and expanding it from what we tend to refer to the traditional rhetoric and some of the toxic or lack of information out there. So that's the kind of the area that we're working in, is just expanding.
Absolutely. I think that the two can be paired. This is personal again, but I had a ventral hernia that I discovered after the birth of my first child, and was just told by any medical advice that I sought out that just leave it until you're done having kids, and then we'll repair it if you need to. And that was before I knew any of this functional movement background. And I figured I would just leave it. After my second child, I really still wanted a third. And then in the summer of 2020, I was experiencing a lot of pain around that hernia. And then, of course, with what was going on in the world at that time, it was harder to seek medical care. And I ended up having surgery on that hernia in June of 2020. And the work that I do really helped me recover from that surgery. It was kind of an emergent surgery. I didn't have much choice in the matter of whether I wanted to have the surgery or not at that time, but the functional movement and the targeted exercises that I could do starting laying in my bed, right, a couple of days post-surgery, really helped to help recover my core and my strength and my endurance after having that surgery. So I think that they can really be paired together. If that is the option that works best for you, you can also make the effects of that surgery, the results, the outcome, even better by pairing it with functional movement exercises.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing and being open to that. And I just want to add that potentially all the work that you had done years before that surgery, maybe that impacted you on being able to prolong when the surgery happened. And two, maybe the surgery you had wasn't as big as it needed to be, as in it didn't happen to the other side. And all the other compounding effects that can happen.
Mm-hmm. And then I'll share too that I did have a third child after that surgery, and it was just fine. So that was what they were trying to, I guess, scare me with, that I didn't want to have the surgery and then have another child because it would just stretch it out again, or whatever the thing was that they were trying to tell me to wait for, but all is good.
Awesome. So what tends to bring people to you?
Usually pain and dysfunction. So the thing that people come to me for is that they've tried other things first. They've asked their doctor, gotten nowhere. They've gone for their insurance mandated 5 physio sessions, and it hasn't gotten them anywhere. And they come to me saying, is this something you can help with? And 9 times out of 10, very quickly after the first couple sessions, whatever they were experiencing is greatly reduced, or at least they have a plan and feel empowered that they can do something about it without having to search for another specialist or another place to go to try to fix it.
So often I also see that. And even when I'm in the healthcare system, often people come in because they have a pain point, they have a problem, something that is occurring in them. So in an ideal world, what do you see?
In an ideal world, I see people are able to talk to their doctors about their pain, because that's where people go 100% of the time first is, oh, I need to talk to my doctor about this. And their doctor knows, oh, that needs to be referred to a kinesiologist. And that is not something that's happening, but it is in, as far as the kinesiology industry, it is something that they are working on and hopeful for, that referrals would happen from a primary care physician. But in an ideal world, people would have the opportunity to move their bodies in nature, regulating their nervous systems without having to worry about time away from earning money to live their lives.
Awesome. And I would agree with you. And there's so much overlap in my work and your work in that area. So specifically, the pain point, because people are having a discomfort, a problem, a pain that brings them to you. In another ideal world, is it possible to decrease the pain points people get?
Absolutely. If they are more aware, I guess awareness would be the ideal world, that people are more aware that they're able to be connected to their bodies enough that they listen when their bodies send out these small alarms, so that they don't have to be completely sidelined when the big alarms go off.
Yeah. And then when you do some research on some of the blue zones and some of the people who tend to not have chronic illnesses and pain, and they tend to be very functioning up into their later years and like 70s and 80s and 90 years of age, and they're still very mobile and functional in their life. There's foundations that they have and they experience, and from our niches and specialties, we can see those foundations. So if, and kind of how you said, all of us are aging. So if we can work with people on how to age well, we can keep people functional for longer. Research also shares right now that we may be living longer, but we have less functional years in our age. So that means we are more dependent and in more pain and not doing well in the years that we are living. We would like to change that. That's our passion. That's what brings us here, is to have people feel well and be functional and independent as long as possible in all the years we have.
Absolutely. One perspective I really like to share with my clients is that I'm not training for my summer body. I'm training for my 90-year-old body. I want to be able to move my body. I want to be able to get down to the floor and back up. I want to be able to get my shoes on without having to sit and not be able to lean over and tie them up. I want to be able to do all the things that I want to do to live life without having those restrictions or limitations that are only there because the body hasn't been moved well throughout the lifespan.
So another personal question for you. So you had two kids before you really got into this functional movement biomechanic side. Then you had another child afterwards. How you parent and how you watch your kids raise, is there a difference in how the older two versus the younger one?
So I really got into all of this when my second was about 6 months. So I saw a big difference between the stroller use and my oldest just kind of complaining every time we went for a walk. And I mean, a little bit of that is personality, but we would go for a hike, and my second, who was mostly carried in a carrier, but varying positions or in arms, he would want down to walk, and then he'd get up for a little rest and he went down to walk. And he just developed such an incredible endurance from an early age. And even now, he's 9.5 now, we'll go out for a hike and he just has no endless energy. And my older one is still the one, after, 3 years of not having this, the first 3 years of his life, that he will still be the first one to say, I'm tired, I need a break. And it's just incredible to see. And it's really neat now. My youngest is now 2, and he has been since day one out camping and hiking and moving in nature, and how incredible it is just to see how comfortable he is in that environment. That there are other children who are grossed out by bugs or dirt or don't want to get dirty or it's cold, and he just loves it out there. Obviously, you need the proper gear. We live in a place where you need to have proper gear to be outside, but it is fascinating to watch the difference from kind of I call it before Katy and after Katy.
BC,
Yeah.
I guess she spelled her name with a K, so BK.
Okay, yes. Well, and then the other thing specifically with the pregnancy, I was really interested to see the differences, being aware of my alignment and movement habits in my final pregnancy versus the first two. And I ended up being really sick in my pregnancy, and I spent 4 months on bed rest. But I really think that the foundation that I had laid before that in movement, and then being able to return to movement after that, was so helpful in regaining strength and mobility after that time spent sick in bed.
So it sounds, everything that you talk about within and how you've shared your personal experience today, it sounds very hopeful. And it sounds like there's so much to gain from learning this and getting the knowledge.
Absolutely. I think that I've used the word empowering a lot, but it is just such a empowering feeling to know that there is something you can do for yourself that can fit into your everyday life. It doesn't have to be just another thing to add to your to-do list, that you can fit these things into how you're already living so that you can make small shifts that add up to really big changes in your health and your well-being and how you're feeling.
Awesome. So it's, yeah, I love the hope. I love all this, and the knowledge, the awareness, the empowerment is the way to go. So it sounds like there's so many benefits for people to learn about themselves. So recently, you actually took one of my courses.
I sure
I would
did.
like to know how that experience was for you.
So in my own personal practice, I teach diaphragmatic breathing to my clients, and we talk about how the ribs should move. And I had learned that very high level, or basic level, I should say, of breathing through some courses that I've done. But then I took Ber's course, and I was able to really dive deep into the function, the biomechanics of the breathing, and the regulation of the nervous system. I think that was the big point for me, that how much breathing really affects your state of mind, your state of your body's nervous system, being able to be in a safe and relaxed space with your breathing. And what's been really great for me is to be able to take what I learned in that course and translate it into the breath work that I would do with my clients, which again is very basic level, but most people that I work with have never done any kind of breath work. So being able to learn that from Ber and then take it to my clients has been so helpful to my practice, but also personally. So learning about all the different ways that we can use breath work to enhance our well-being pairs so well with my work of all the different ways that we can use movement to enhance our well-being.
Yeah, the more I learn about breathing, the more I realize I don't know, and I just keep learning. Traditionally, again, going back to what general population talks about breathing, a lot of it is either one of two camps. It's either the biomechanical piece or it's the spirituality, meditative piece. Those are just a fraction of what functional breathing and breathing practices are. And there's the biochemistry piece, and like you said, the nervous system piece, self-regulation, as well as how we socially interact with people, how we manage our stress, and how all this also relates to our health, our well-being, our immune system, and chronic health conditions. And we can really make, just like your work, we can make an impact on how we age, how we feel, just by awareness and small, manageable, tolerable changes in our life. And just like that earlier quote I said, practice does not equal perfection. Practice equals permanence. What you practice becomes permanent. So your learning curve is you take something small, you take something manageable, and I think this works really well with both of our practices. When you take something small and manageable, incorporate that into your life, then it becomes permanent part of you. Then you take something else small, put that into your life. You learn how to incorporate that in how everyday challenges you face or experiences you have, then that becomes permanent, and you slowly have these micro adjustments and it becomes permanent in you. Does that
Fascinating to look back then, a year or two, 5 years from now, and say, wow, look at the big changes I've made by doing these small little incremental changes over time.
Yeah. So again, starts with awareness, knowledge, and the desire. And I think some of our messaging is if you have a pain point, then that's going to be your desire for change. But you can also learn this stuff when you don't have a pain point. All of us have something to learn to help with our health and our physiology. I study this stuff, you study this stuff, and both of us learn things all the time and incorporate that into our life. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I think that my main motivation for getting into this functional movement space was personal. It was that pain point of pelvic floor dysfunction and translated into every area of my life. I mean, now all my family is in minimal shoes. We don't have a lot of furniture in our house. Our leisure time is spent outside moving through nature. All of these things have come from me wanting to learn about how to get rid of my sneeze pee. It's such a wonderful thing to have gone in one entry door and got so much out of it.
So I just want to put in there that it sounds uncomfortable to wear these things called minimal shoes, to have less furniture in your house. Like, I can see some people going and like these spikes of like danger zone that these two are talking about. What do you mean? Like, no, I'm not giving up my couch. I'm not giving up my bed, and I'm still going to live in the house, and I'm still going to have central heating.
So I
So
think my first comment to that would be try to get comfortable with being uncomfortable some of the time. The next would be these don't have to be all at once. Actually, I wouldn't recommend them to be all at once things. You can't just go from wearing a heel every day to a minimal shoe. There needs to be a transition period. There needs to be small incremental changes that happen so that you don't injure these underworked or underused tissues. And the no furniture, well, keep your couch, but maybe sit on the floor once in a while and see how it makes you feel. And maybe you'll choose that more often. The reason that we have one couch in my house is because then I don't have to choose. I don't have to make that choice constantly every day of whether to sit on the couch or the floor. It's just the floor is there.
yeah, and I like that, where what you, and refer to what you said earlier, is sit on the floor more often, that it doesn't need to be your permanent thing. And like you said, if you've never sat on the floor, it's going to be uncomfortable, and your body's going to give you signals of like, okay, I'm done. So slowly, when you do that more often, you can sit on the floor longer and enjoy it, and it
There
not be
are ways to make it more tolerable as you do. You can bolster down on the floor. You can just take your chair and get something that is an inch shorter. And then every time you get in and out of that chair, you're having to do that little bit more degree of hip flexion every time you get in and out. Try to stand up from your chair without using your hands. All of these things are just small little changes that you can make that pretty soon you don't have to think about, but you're getting more movement into your day. You're getting more loaded forces on your body that are going to promote health rather than promote degeneration or pain.
Yeah. And one thing that I tend to hear in some of my peer group, and as we are aging, I hear people talk about with their grandkids, they wish they could sit on the floor and play with their grandkids. And I say, well, you can. And they're like, no, I can't. It hurts. So that's exactly what we're talking about. Well, if you play on the floor with your grandkids for 2 minutes, then you get up, and then 5 minutes later, sit on the floor for 2 minutes and get up. That is going to be, that's the little subtle things that we're talking about. And specifically, when you work with us, we give you more strategic patterns that is very pertinent, relevant, and specialized to you. And that helps you figure out your pattern and what helps you move forward faster with less discomfort.
I think exactly what you're saying is that we help people increase their tolerance by giving them specific tools to target their issue in their body and their life. And by slowly increasing that window of tolerance, then you're going to be able to do the things you want to do without causing pain, without causing dysfunction.
Agreed. So I have a secret to share. I don't know if I've ever shared this with you. I have secretly wanted to do a collaboration class courses with you. I think that our two specialties would mend so well together and have a compounding effect and benefit for people who take our class. So what do you think? Are you up for that?
I think that's a great idea.
So how would that work? How, as you know some of my work and I know your work, what does that make you think? How does that play out in your head?
I think that people coming to learn about awareness of both their breathing habits and their movement habits is a fabulous place to start. And then giving them specific tools to improve their breathing mechanics, improve their alignment, or the way that they move their bodies all day long would look really great in a class together.
Yeah, let's do it.
Sounds good.
So if any of you are interested, we will, behind the scenes, put a class together and pick out dates. And maybe it's in the description below. We'll figure that out. Something we can't figure out right now while we're recording this. So if any of this sounds interesting to you, I encourage you to follow up and look at the links below for our courses. So my question is, as we wrap this up, for you who are watching, what are you doing today for your well-being? For you to be functional as you age, because every single day you're getting 1 day older. What are you doing today, to use Rosanna's words? What are you doing today for your 90-year-old body? So I encourage you to go and to the link for our course that we will create and share together. I encourage you to sign up. I also encourage you, send us questions. Ask us how we can help you and what you are looking for. The more we have conversations together, the more we can bridge this gap between this not being aware to being aware, and then the knowledge to move forward. Because our passion of what drives us, and I think you would agree, Rosanna, is we really want people to have that aha moment and to have that physical feeling and that memory of what feels better and having that lasting, impactful change that becomes permanent in themselves.
Absolutely. I agree.
So I appreciate you coming today, and thank you again for being so candid, honest, open with everything that you shared. I learned more about you today than I have in the past, and I'm really looking forward to take more of your courses and working together. I appreciate you, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I look forward to it.
And before we go, is there anything else you want to add?
I think just what I said right in the beginning is that people have more control over how they feel in their bodies than they think. And that awareness is the first step. So reach out, ask the questions, and we hope to see you in our course.
Awesome. And before we go, one more thing. Is there any, or let's use 2 words or 2 things that we're grateful for.
I am grateful for this platform to share my work, and just for the relationship we've developed that as colleagues, we can really share our work with the world.
I think
That's more than 2 words.
Well, it wasn't 2 words. Yeah, 2 words wasn't going to do it. 2 concepts. You stole mine. That's exactly what I was going to say. I am grateful for us having a platform to be able to share our lived experience and to motivate and get more messaging out there that there are options. We are both passionate to have people feel better, and I'm grateful that there are ways to feel better and how to age well. So thank you for being here, Rosanna, and until next time.
Thanks
Let's
again for
keep
having me.
moving. Keep
Have a
moving,
good day.
keep breathing.
There we go.
Okay, have a good day, everybody.